chairman change, he actually had the votes where he abolished the executive committee. So, you know, that all comes down to the bylaws in your room. That comes down to getting the votes in the room. If you get the votes, you have this, again, if you have the votes, you can get rid of your chairman, according to this book. They'll say, no, you cannot get rid of a chairman. You can't. It's never addressed directly in any of the 6 or 7 county bylaws I've seen. And it's very explicit. If it's not addressed in the bylaws, this book takes precedent. There is provisions in this book for removals of officers. The chairman is an officer. That means there's a procedure to get rid of the chairman. And those are the little word games. Well, it doesn't say chairman. No, it doesn't say chairman, but he's an officer. And that's what some people may have to make that argument in these rooms. It may not be a popular argument, but these are the types of things that it's going to hinge on interpretation and words.
And Richland County just redid their bylaws. They're in the process of being approved. And they put in a specific item about being able to remove the chairman. And boy, did that cause a ruckus. It was a good ruckus.
Yeah, no.
So, you know, there's some people, one in particular, that has a real issue with it, but based on what you're saying is even if that doesn't get approved, it's in that anyway, so it doesn't.
If you can make the fight, and the fight comes down to the votes, because you can overrule the parliamentarian. You know, there's been instances where, you know, point of order is what stops the meeting. If you guys, at any time, you're sitting in those meetings, and you see something that is not, if you will, procedurally correct by your bylaws or by Robert's Rules of Order, you can stand up at any time and call, Mr. Chairman, point of order. That stops everything right there, and you are then allowed to say, you know, you're doing this, that's out of order, this is the way it's supposed to go. He'll look to the parliamentarian, or first he'll say, no, it's not out of order. Then you appeal his ruling. Then it goes to the parliamentarian. And that's when it can get a little bit heated back and forth. But that's when, again, having the votes in the room back you up. Okay, and if you have the votes in the room, you can back them down. That's one of the problems, you know, you have to have a quorum. I'm jumping around. The quorum is usually set in your bylaws for how many people you have to have at a meeting to, if you will, to be official. Some counties don't have enough central committee people, so they have to call joint central executive committee meetings to be able to get yourselves a quorum in the meetings. If you don't have a quorum, the meeting doesn't count. It's nothing more than a little, you know, coffee get together. And a lot of counties, you know, in Cuyahoga County, there's over 1,000 empty precinct seats. You know, I'm sure if you count up all the 88 counties and how many empty precinct seats there are, it's mind-boggling. So the point of order automatically stops everything, and what it does is it allows you the opportunity to go ahead and call the chairman or whatever proceedings are going on, call them to a stop, make sure that they're going by the book. So, subsidiary motions, those are usually made over and above, on top of, or attached to a main motion. Whether you want to, you know, postpone a meeting, if you want to make an amendment to a motion that's already been made, if you want to refer something to a committee, now that's referring something to a committee. A lot of times that'll happen in your platform meetings. Right? If you guys are going to be passing a platform for your county committee. Some fights can also take place in as far as what language, how you want the language to read, what bylaws or anything like that. Same thing also with bylaw meetings. The one thing you want to, they'll try to sometimes do, and I'm not just using our county as an example, I've seen this in other counties, where if they see they don't have the votes, what they'll do is they'll refer it to a committee. And then try to go ahead behind the scenes, get the votes they can, make little tweaks like we're seeing in the legislature now, tweaks to what they're trying to do. And then at the next meeting, they'll bring it back from the committee. Well, if it's referred to a committee, depending on how that meeting is going, and usually bylaw meetings or platform type meetings don't always end in one meeting. So depending on what motion you guys can make to whether you want to call a recess in the meeting, whether you want to call an adjournment, whether you want to lay the motion on the table. Depending on which ones you guys want to use, that committee stands idle. They cannot meet and talk about what was referred to that committee until the next meeting, until it is actually taken off the table. When something's tabled, that means nobody can discuss it, even after that meeting is done. They can't go make any changes to it and come and represent it at the next meeting. You basically stopped it. So what that means is if they come to the next meeting and say, hey, we met and we did this, point of order, Mr. Chairman, that committee's not allowed to meet when that bill is laid, or that motion was laid on the table. That's one of the ways that they try to get things done also. And this, by doing that, by stopping the language they try to insert to try to get their 3 or 4 votes, or whatever, how many votes they needed to pass it, you basically stopped it. So now the votes they had counted on, they mean nothing, because what you guys did didn't count, so it doesn't exist. So again, you'll see this gets to be like a chess match with what motions you want to make, when you're going to make them. One of the things that happens a lot is limiting or extending the debate time. That is a big no-no. I've seen that happen in many county committees, where they'll say, okay, what we're going to do, whether it be for endorsements or bylaws or just a general meeting, we want to have 2 people speak for, and 2 people speak against, and then we'll put it to a vote. They're not allowed, that's limiting the debate. By rule, everybody in that room has 10 minutes to speak on every single motion that's made, twice. You can't get up and talk, and if everybody goes around the room and has something to say, you can get up and talk again. You can't talk the second time unless everybody else has spoken or the committee waives their right and says, yeah, let him speak again. But that's also put to a vote. So when they go to say we only want to have, do you have that problem here? Do they ever say we're going to have a couple speak for, a couple against?
It's more of just trying to clarify what exactly we're voting on.
Okay.
And we're pretty, I don't know, gentlemanly, ladies and gentlemen about it.
Okay.
So.
This is against, this isn't, is this done in everything, like school board meetings?
Well, school board meeting, no, that's a public body meeting. Your school board meetings, they don't have to let you speak at all.
Okay.
By law, it's a privilege to speak at a school board meeting.